Hello, friends. Welcome to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm Christina, your host. And today I have Susan Day. She is a mindful art therapist up in Australia. And I'm going to have her talk about mindful art therapy, breathing exercises, and some more things. Welcome, Susan.
Oh, hi, Christine. Thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be here.
So, Susan, would you mind going into what mindful art therapy is?
Well, it's a therapy that uses the arts to help people work through some issues or develop their self-confidence. I work preliminary with pre-teens, so we look at building emotional resilience, and it's something everyone can do, and it's very simple in its approach, but it's also it's quite powerful too in its outcome. It's really quite interesting.
Perfect. So, how do they come to you? Do you seek them? Do they seek you?
People usually give me a call or send me an email. I do online classes as well as in-person ones. So it's just something that people often think, they often make the mistake, I guess, of thinking that you need to be good at art or at least interested in art. And that's not necessarily the case because, small children can make a mark on the paper and that can be interpreted in all different sorts of ways. So for example, I was working with a young girl, she was about 8, and she was concerned about something that had happened at school. A teacher she'd always loved and had always seemed to respect her had kind of dismissed her. And so she was talking about it, and as she was talking, she was drawing green circles. You think,
Hmm.
well, what's that about? So, some of your listeners might be aware that colors have a positive and a negative. So we often associate green with nature and growth, and it's a very positive color. But on the other hand, it can be it can be a little bit negative. So I tended to think that she was perhaps a little bit jealous. But the drawing of the circles is a very contemplative and thoughtful process, whereas straight, jagged lines can be interpreted as anger or frustration. So,
Okay.
I didn't think that, we had a chat about it and I asked her some, sort of explorative type of questions. And she was able to sort of go, yeah, I kind of was a bit jealous and I was a bit upset. And so we kind of just discussed it that perhaps the teacher was having a bad day and that it wasn't her fault. I suppose that was probably the main aim. So, yeah, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's open to all ages. Anybody can do this mindful art. They just do how do you start? Do you start off with a topic or do you just let them kind of start drawing and coloring?
We usually start with some mindful breathing. So I often say, particularly to the younger kids, I often say to them, everyone's heard of meditation, but mindfulness is a bit like meditation on the go. I say that so you can do mindful eating, mindful walking, and like you and I can be mindful now. So I kind of just teach them that sort of body sensory. How am I feeling? Are there any aches and pains? And we do some lovely long deep breaths and just something nice and simple. As you get better at it, you can kind of imagine drawing in, really positive energy and
Mm,
healing. I think that's for me, that's probably my ultimate goal is for my clients to be able to get close to that and get close to that sort of sense of healing. The science is now telling us that nice long deep breath that will removes about 70% of toxins out of your body, and it's about, like, if you suffer from anxiety or you can be quite heightened, it can reduce that down so that the next time you become heightened, you don't go up here, you might just come down to here and here. And so for emotional regulation, deep breathing is extremely powerful, but again,
extremely.
it's like really simple. I mean, anyone can do it.
Absolutely. And do you find like certain colors mean certain things or certain mediums that people are using?
Yeah, I always give people the opportunity to choose the medium. Um,
Okay.
but I will perhaps guide them. Um, so that we tend to do 3 to 4 activities, perhaps. Um, if I find that there's a reluctance to even pick up perhaps a pencil or a felt tip marker, I I might give them some Play-Doh just to
Oh,
squeeze
okay.
in their hands. And
Mm,
sometimes, that's a sign that they're maybe a bit angry and frustrated. And it could be with anything. It doesn't have to be something, a deep-seated trauma. Although I tend to sort of work through things, it's like a layering down through the
absolutely.
process. Yeah. So if somebody, on the other hand, is perhaps depressed or just so sad, or they can't seem to get motivated, paint is a wonderful medium because it's fast and it's liquid, and things happen, and you get kind of, it brings you up, and then we might use colors like yellow, the warm colors of yellow and red and orange, which will lift your mood. um, Whereas people who are too heightened, we might use the calm colors, the blues, the greens, the purples. And I tend to like to use things like gel pens as
Ooh,
well,
yeah.
because the results are very beautiful, but you have to take your time. Don't You can't pick a gel pen up like you can a paintbrush. Shh, you know.
Right.
So, so nothing's going to happen. Um, yeah, so it's really interesting. It again, you just have to have a few things available. Um, it is something people can do at home, and that's why I've written my books, particularly the activity books, because I wanted people to experience it. Not many people have heard of art therapy,
Mhm.
and not many people might not have the funds, or want to give the commitment to sign up to lessons. So I thought perhaps a $20 book, it might it might be able to inspire them to see a therapist, or just maybe help them work through a few problems. Yeah.
That's great. I love that you're doing an activity book that somebody can just go get if they can't afford to go to a class or they're too nervous to go other people. Do you find that some kids are kind of shy to start off with, or do you find that they just get kind of right into it?
Most are quite shy. Yeah. I find the ones that are not are usually quite confident anyway. So, like, I've got it sorted. And I go, oh, okay. So, but yeah, often though, the kids will go, is this an art class? And I'll go, nope, I'm not going to teach you how to draw. I'm not going to teach you how to paint or do any of that sort of stuff. We're going to just have some fun. And I just want you to choose a color. And as soon as they choose a color, that's a reflection of their mood. And it doesn't matter what that medium is, you know. Um, and a lot of teens will go for the blacks or brown or a dark purple or a very dark, like indigo, blue
Mm,
purple color.
yeah,
And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in a depressed state or that things are going to get bad. It just means that they're this where they are, and it's a present moment thing as well. The next day they might pick a yellow and just be quite heightened. So yeah, it can also refer to the fact that they're being very thoughtful and intellectual. The other thing is, the wonderful thing about art therapy is we're not going to create something you're going to pop on your wall. We're just going to make a mess. So that's that's another process about making mistakes, and how that can be a good learning process, experience for particularly young ones, and that it's okay to just kind of make a mess on the paper, and there's no judgment, there's no criticism at
oh, I
the end.
love
And
that.
yeah, and if they want to throw it away afterwards, that's cool. It doesn't, because it's done its job. If that makes sense, yeah.
Well, that's so great. It's just your energy in talking about this just seems so warm and non-judgmental. I feel like anybody can just go and kind of let their emotions out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I think, to be honest, I think everyone should be doing it. I work with a New Zealand magazine, and a parenting magazine, and just being able to, for mums that are breastfeeding, and I've got, like, toddlers hanging off them everywhere. Just being able to you can pick up a biro and use the back of an old envelope or a piece of junk mail, and
Right.
just lovely deep breaths and just start drawing some circles. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I haven't really heard of mindful art therapy until I found you on Facebook. And I think, there's all these kinds of therapies for everybody and how to express yourself with your spirituality or just come into a mindful state of mind. And I think what you're doing is so great and it's for every age. So you could be little going through something, or you might not be going through anything at all. And I think it's really important that it's not
Yeah.
just for specific people. And I really think, especially spirituality, is not just one bubble. There's multiple bubbles of it all.
Oh, absolutely. And it can be used in community groups. So, often we see a community art project and people focus on the end result, which might be a quilt or a mural on the wall or something. But in reality, the process of working together, of being creative within a group, is really invigorating. It's really empowering, especially for women. So, one of my books is about how art therapy empowers women. And I've got one about preteens as well. So
Mm.
yeah, it's really, really quite interesting. And they're using art therapy in prisons, obviously in schools, old age homes. Isn't that sweet? Just to think that,
That
you know,
is.
e even at the end of your life when, everything's beginning to slow down and close down, um, you can still be empowered to feel better about yourself or even to help others, which I think for me is I think the ultimate goal of
Absolutely.
kindness, empathy, and gratitude. Yeah.
Do you ever find that your students will even give back the photos, the drawings that they're making, or do they keep them for themselves?
Keep them. Yeah, which is really, really interesting. So I have grandchildren who, I have a pile of artwork from each one. Oh, I love you. I love you too. And that's just it's a really lovely way they express their feelings. But a lot of people keep them, or they'll decide, no, I just like this one. And honest to goodness, sometimes I look at it and I think you just got a brush and made a few marks on a paper.
Yeah.
So, um, and I will keep them on file. If nothing else, down the track to say to them, look how far you've come. Do you remember doing this?
Ooh,
Do
that's a
you
good one.
remember, where we started and how you kind of couldn't remember my name or you didn't know where you were or what was really going on? And now look at you. Now look at, this different,
Yeah.
vibrant, confident person. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that to see just the growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where art too is really interesting because yeah, you can physically see something that whereas talk therapy, it can be hard to go back and remember when you said this, and because there's so many emotions overlaid, it can be hard to resonate back to that point. And obviously you can appreciate how far you've come, but you don't see it because essentially as a being, as creatures, we've been drawing since the beginning of time. We started on cave walls.
Right.
um the first thing children do is draw, even before they can speak properly they draw. um Sadly a lot of
Absolutely.
adults leave that behind. I think that's a yeah I would encourage all your listeners to pick up some crayons. Go wild.
Oh, I hope they do. I love coloring and doing that stuff too, but your human brain wants you to like stay in the lines and, you know, get the outcome. But I think what you're describing is they can just literally take the art and not even think about any of the lines or what the outcome is going to be.
Oh,
They
absolutely. Yeah.
draw
Don't stay out.
squiggles and they just fill the page, right?
That's right. Yeah. Don't stay in the lines. Yeah, that's very
Sure.
important. Yep.
And you mentioned that when you start off, you start with a meditation or some kind of deep breathing. Do you kind of want to walk us through it and see maybe some of my listeners might pick up this podcast and then like play that little deep breathing exercise, and then they can go into their own coloring if they decide to later.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in all my books, I begin with a how to create an atmosphere and a special space. But it is something you could do in your car if you're sitting in your car park. You know, like sorry, in your car at the moment
Hmm.
in a car park. Obviously, not driving.
Yes, not
um,
driving.
no driving. So yeah, I say to sit down and close your eyes and begin to just settle a little bit, get a little bit comfortable, perhaps wiggle your toes, maybe move your fingers around, and then take one nice, long, very deep breath to the count of 4. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold, and then just release 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale beautifully. And we're going to do that again. This time, though, I want you to think of drawing in a lot of positive energy. 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing any negative issues, any problems you have that you're worried about. And one more time, one long deep breath in to the count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold it in and release any problem, any issue that you're worried about. There you go. Well done.
Oh, I love that. I love that you can just walk them through. It's letting go of the day. I think that's super important, especially for
Oh,
kids, and
yeah,
they just go through so much.
yeah. And I often say to them, don't be afraid to do this at any time. You don't need to tell anyone what
Oh,
you're
that's
doing,
good.
isn't it? Yeah. You can just be watching something and just settle yourself down. I mean, as adults, I'll say to an adult, you know, if you feel anywhere that you're uncomfortable, there's any pain, just imagine that energy rushing to that spot, you know, freeing all that
Mm,
negative stuff that's going on in your life and drawing this beautiful, powerful energy. But you can do it anyway. You can do it in the supermarket queue. You know, kids can do
absolutely.
it. They can do it on the bench as they're waiting for their turn at the baseball or something. So yeah.
I mean, that's very true with any kind of deep breathing or things like that. You can just kind of do it anywhere where you need to just calm your energy, kind
Yeah,
of get
exactly.
recentered.
And it's beautiful programs that and I've done this as well, where you can go outside and then use all the rest of your senses as well. So I just
Mm,
tend to use it as an introduction. I find that because a lot of clients are just not quite used to doing it at all, you know, we just start with small baby steps, and then I'll encourage them to go on further and, you know, look at breath work and all sorts of aspects to it.
that's beautiful. So when you're with these students after they're done, do you have open discussions or do you have like one-on-ones?
Um, both, yeah. So if they need to have a chat, we can do that. I always say to them, if you're very concerned about something and you need to speak to somebody, don't
Hmm.
hold it in. And you know, like mum and dad might be busy, grandpa might be busy, so you might have to speak to more than one person before somebody stops and listens, and
Right.
that's okay. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So they don't have to tell me their problems because you know, it can take a long time for people to build up a real
Yeah,
rapport and trust with the therapist. But talk to somebody and keep talking to somebody. And while they're doing that, use the artwork. Journaling is also now under the umbrella of arts therapy. So for a lot of people, you writing it out is really powerful. So yeah, it's one of those things. And I say to them, you can write whatever you like. You can put as many swear words or curse words as you want in if you're really angry and you really want to tell somebody off, and then
yeah.
you can rip it up and you can throw it away. Because
Oh,
all that
that's
energy
great.
you're holding on to that's in here that's really upsetting you and affecting you negatively, it'll be gone. Yeah. And we do that with trauma as well. So, you know, um, if you can't talk to the person who's caused you harm, which most people can't for whatever,
Right.
you know, for lots of reasons, you can write them a letter And one of the things that an adult we might do is we might burn it in a safe place. One
Hmm.
of the exercises I like to do, which I found really powerful myself in my own healing journey, was to fold the letter into an origami boat. And I'm not very good at origami at all. I don't know why. I just can't get it anyway. Um, but yeah, and then set it sail. So you write this letter, you fold it into this boat, and then you put it on a river or you take it to the sea. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
And you just and there's I can't express the relief and the sort of empowering feeling as this tiny little boat just rocks off, yeah, and floats away. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it's almost like talking to it's the high empowered body universe source. You just kind of let it all out there and you just let it float.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, very simple stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, it
But it's
really
very
speaks.
impactful.
It is, yeah.
Very, very impactful. Well, thank you for all what you're doing. I think it's super important for everybody out there. I think it needs to be more known. I think that it's not talked about enough of art therapy.
No, it's not. And that's one of the reasons why I really appreciate being a guest on your podcast. Yeah, I really do. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Susan, we're going to wrap up. Can you just let everybody know where they can find you and any of your materials?
Sure. So my website's mindfulartstherapy.com.au because I'm in Australia. But if you look up, at the little at symbol, Mindful Arts Therapy, arts with an S, you'll pretty much find me hanging around Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. And there's ways to get in contact with me. If anyone would like to have a chat, more than happy to talk further. And yeah, my books are on Amazon. If you look up Mindful Arts Therapy, Susan Day on Amazon, you'll see them available. So yeah, give them a go. They're great fun. Yeah.
I will definitely give that a go. Thank you, Susan, for all of your work. I feel like it's super important to everybody in the world.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great. I really appreciate it.
I hope this podcast resonates with you. You can find me on ChristinaAngelMessenger.com. It's Christina Angel Messenger. You can also find me on Instagram, Christina Angel Messenger.